calling press calls in the air. You've been beaten down by Mr. Hughes. Return from hell, Mr. Hughes. Hear the millennium bell, Mr. Hughes. Return from hell, Mr. Hughes.
People, just like I told you, pork buckets, last time I was here is to get that gold around my waist. Anybody, if you got that gold, guess what? Total Protection is coming after you.
Hello, folks. Total Protection Mr. Hughes here with another edition of the Total Protection Mr. Hughes podcast. My guest for tonight, folks, will be Big ODINSON Reggie Gibbs. And, of course, we're going to bring him in just a little bit later here. And, of course, my co-host, the ATLien. What's up, AT?
What's going on, Mr. Hughes? Back again for episode number 5.
No doubt about it. Episode number 5, folks. The train just keeps on rolling. I can tell you this, right off the bat, folks, this past weekend was at the gathering at Charlotte, North Carolina. And got to see a whole bunch of some great superstars up there and some old wrestling buddies, and sat around and talked about some good old war stories and this and that and the other. But I'll tell you something, folks. I had to throw this in here because on the way up there, my vehicle, my freaking water pump went out. We was about 120 miles from Charlotte, and the water pump went out. And I tell you what, SP the Ghost was with me. And it was hot as I don't know what, and lo and behold, we wasn't too far from the place where I went and got my part, and it's like 3 miles away. But long story short, got the part, put it on myself, got rolling, got to the gathering, had a great time up in Charlotte. Now, with that said, AT, the subject I want to talk about today is a subject that I believe a lot of people don't get into. The subject for the day, AT, is going to be about why do guys on the indie scene do the same old boring matches over and over and over and over again. How do you respond to that, AT?
I feel like you need to go a little further in depth than that, Mr. Hughes.
And we're going to do that today with this podcast, and because, like I said, folks, it's like this. Like I say all the time to young people, that's trying to come up in the world of professional wrestling. If you guys want to be able to have people to perform in front of, you got to have some good wrestling to bring them. You got to learn how to tell a story with some psychology behind it. You got to wrestle. That's what it's called, professional wrestling. Some people out here today get trained, but they're not getting trained right. They're not getting taught how to do this right, and so when you go to these shows, all you see is a bunch of spots and a bunch of the same old, same old. For example, some guys, they might watch a match and they see something on Monday Night Raw or one of these other big companies, and they see a guy do something that's interesting that might get a pop, and that person going to steal that and do it on the indie level every freaking time he goes to the show. You see that sometime, AT?
I do see that, and I'm kind of I kind of do the same thing, but I don't do the exact same thing now. I change it up and I put my own spin on it.
Well, you might say you put your own spin to it, but if you want people to buy a ticket, see, that's the key right there. Some of these young cats, man, they don't understand what buying a ticket to come see you mean. The whole objective to a wrestling gig, folks, is a promoter to make money. If the promoter makes money, he can pay the boys. And if the boys are not doing what they're supposed to do, they're not going to draw money, period. So when people go to get trained and their trainer don't teach them about the importance of entertaining people as far as wrestling holds and telling a story with psychology behind it, AT, the fans are going to be bored as hell, because I tell you what, I go to a lot of indie shows when I'm booked, and I see these young cats get in the ring and start out, and all of a sudden they just running like crazy. Spot fest, no holds, no wrestling whatsoever. And I might be on a 3-day gig with some of these people, and they do the same old boring garbage. Have you seen that before too?
Yeah, Hughes. And like a big thing that you used to advocate to us that we watch the matches that went before us, so we don't go out there and do the same match. I went to a show one time, and the opening match was headlocks, and then it got to the main event, and again the whole match was headlocks. It was pretty much the same match.
Well, here's the thing. Like I taught you guys at the WWA 4, watch each match. Like say for example, if you're the second match, AT,
Yeah.
and Odinson was the third match. Well, if you're going to watch the first match. Odinson, he's going to watch the first and the second match just to make sure. Okay, I can't do the same thing in y'all's matches exactly because the fans already seen it and they're not going to respond like you want them to. For example, if you do something big time and you get the big ultimate pop, and then Odinson comes in there and he tries to do the same thing because he wants to see he feels he might get the same pop or better pop than you did, right? And he tries to do it. Well, they're not going to respond as well because they're already seen it. Now, here's the thing that young people don't get these days, and they don't get. That's why it's good to talk to a veteran, folks, that's been somewhere, done something in the world of professional wrestling, and you can talk to him. He can tell you important things that you can learn, and he can tell you what you can do out there in that ring to get a response from the people. You know, if ain't nobody ever showed you how to do this stuff, or how to as you might say, I used to tell y'all to put how to get the fans in the palm of your hand. You know, it's real simple. I say it all the time. Wrestling is good versus evil. Good guy, bad guy. It's just simple as that. If you don't have that kind of thing in your match, that's one of the boringest things that you can see when you go to a professional wrestling match. You see two guys, you don't know who's the babyface, you don't know who's the heel, but they're in there doing a bunch of nothing.
It's just because everybody wants to be the star in the match. I feel like people don't they don't want to share the spotlight. They think that it's just it's just up to them to get over for themselves, and they don't understand that it's a dance.
Right.
Yeah, and a lot of these indie guys, they don't want to work the crowd. They want to be the guy doing the coolest move in the match. These guys are just doing spots, going from one move to the other, not even letting the crowd respond to the match. They don't even care about the crowd. It's all about the moves and the spot to them.
Well, that's how it is, and that's where a lot of the guys are missing the psychology part. See, and so when guys come, let me tell you something, folks. When some young guys get in this business, and they might have came to an indie show, but they're not in the business yet. They might have came to a show, and they might have seen some guy doing a bunch of flops and flips and a bunch of nothing, and that kind of, ooh man, that looks like that might be fun. I want to do that. Then this guy goes about his business about trying to get somebody to teach him a few things. Then he goes and buys some freaking gear. Then he goes talk to a promoter. A promoter book him on the show for free, and then he'll get in there and try all this stuff. In the meantime, they're in the back talking about every freaking inch of the freaking match. I'm sitting there looking at them going like, what in the world are these cats doing? You never do that. Nowadays, guys will sit in the back and talk about a match for a damn near hour. It might even 2 or 3 hours. Talking about what they're going to do from start to finish. And then when the match starts, by the end of the finish is a freaking total abortion. You ever seen that happen, AT?
Exactly. You're taking the thoughts right out of my brain. I was just going to ask you about this. So as far as somebody calling a match in the back over and over and over and over and over, and then going out there and consistently doing that match over and over, no matter if the crowd is responding or not, that's not good wrestling. You need to be able to work on the fly, right?
No doubt about it. And so, since you said work on the fly, that's why I taught you guys. This is how you do it. Because let me tell you something, folks. If you get taught by an old school professional wrestler, you're getting taught how it used to be. Okay, like I said in previous podcasts, okay, I don't care if it's the big company out there, they're entertainment. That's what they do. That's what they call it. Okay, folks. But on the lower level of the indie scene, it's not that. It's called professional wrestling. Nothing has changed on that area. It's just that some guys think that they can just go in there and do whatever they want to do. Like, for example, when we talked about that subject we was on, and I got a little high heated about that these guys, dropping their tights and bumping their butts together. That's not professional wrestling. I don't like that garbage. So guys think that they can take whatever they want and go to these shows and think that the fans are going to buy it. I'm not going to take my daughter or my sons to go see some garbage like that and think they expect them to come back and they're going to go tell their friends, ooh, I just saw this freaking deal at this show called wrestling, and these guys are doing all this crazy stuff, and guys are killing the freaking business with it. On top of that, guys are killing the business all the way around by doing what we're talking about today, doing the same old boring matches, doing the spot fest, not working holds. I mean, just no professionalism whatsoever in the ring or in the dressing room. You see that too, AT?
Yes, Hughes. So, okay. So if we go and people like to use the Macho Man Randy Savage and the Dragon Steamboat match at WrestleMania 3, that match was planned to a T. And they like to use that as a reference to say that even you guys back in the day was right, like making your matches like were a match move for move. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, that good, perfect example right there. Those guys are total veterans. They came from Macho Man. It came from a background. His father was a freaking wrestler. His father raised him. His brother Paulfo, his brother, Lanny is a wrestler. So those guys came from a wrestling family. Okay, so they got taught the right way. Ricky Steamboat, I wrestled him several times. Great worker. I mean, it was a pleasure working with that dude. He's one of the best. Okay, and I wrestled a lot of the best, superstars in this game, man. So I know professional wrestling. I know what I'm talking about. I don't care if it's 2019. If these kids do not change and go back to the old style of professional wrestling, there will not be no companies for these people to go and see professional wrestling. You got older people that still love professional wrestling, AT, but they will not go, they will not watch it because of the garbage that they see on some of these indie shows that pop up in their towns. And if they do go, they see a match, they see the same match starting from the first match all the way to the main event. Same boring match. I done been on shows where you sitting there watching the freaking match, and it's so quiet in there. It sounds like you're in a mausoleum. Have you seen that before, AT?
Indeed, Mr. Hughes. Many a times. So back at the WWA 4, you used to give us certain cues and certain things that we couldn't do to try to steer the matches into being different. Like you would give a certain finish, or you would say the first match you guys can't go out on the floor. The second match, you guys can't dive. You would just give us stuff to make our matches different and to put a wrench in the gears to make us want to be different.
Period. That is the key right there. That's what my job as a teacher and a trainer was to teach you kids how to be a professional wrestler. I just didn't take your money. Frank just didn't take y'all's money. My job, my passion was to teach young people. My goal was to see every individual that came to Total Protection, Mr. Hughes, that came to the WWA 4. And my whole objective was to teach y'all kids how to wrestle and see you walk down a aisle of WWF, WWE, ECW, Impact, Ring of Honor. I don't care, whatever company is floating out there today. That's what I wanted to see, and I've been blessed to have the opportunity to do that today. And folks, what the ATLien is talking about is exactly the truth. Period. I taught you kids how to, don't do this before this match. If there's the first, just like I said, the first match, don't go on the floor. Second match, keep it in line with. It's like telling a story all the way to the end, folks. And I'll tell you what. I done seen shows where guys go out there and the first match is a bloody match, and then after that, what are you going to do?
There's nothing that you could do. It's not much you could do after that. but like bring the tempo all the way down, and then you got to bring it back up later on in the show.
Yeah, and it's totally ridiculous. And so this passion of mine I was sitting there thinking a couple weeks ago, what would be a good subject for the next podcast, the number 4 podcast with the big Odinson. And I was talking to Purple Haze back then about. I was talking to him, and he had a good idea. He goes, Mr. Hughes, how's this sound? And I said, great. I do see people doing the same old boring matches. And I mean, Flair used to do that too. I mean, he was good. Don't get me wrong, but every night he did the same bloody match. Okay, but now here's the deal. Sometimes if you're a professional like Flair, you can get away with it if the match ain't on television. But here's the deal: a lot of these guys they do the same thing over and over and over, even if it's the same crowd. I see it all the time.
I swear it's like you are reading my mind. I was just going to say something like that. So in WWE, there's the main TV show, and then there's the house shows. So they go in the house shows and they practice what they're going to do before they go into the main TV show. Is that something more that would work if people are just trying stuff out before they go on their main shows, their main gigs?
No. If you're a professional, okay, hear my words here, folks. If you call yourself a professional wrestler and you got trained and you're already doing gigs and you're getting paid to do this stuff, there's no need for you to have to go get in a ring and practice your match before the gig. They didn't do that in the old days. They just winged it, went out there and did the freaking match because they were professionals, people. That's what I taught you guys. I taught you how to wing matches. We did sessions at practice where I told you guys today I'm gonna show you guys how to wing a match. Why? Because if you learn how to wing a match, you can have a match with a green person with ease. You won't panic. You won't sit there in the back trying to figure out what to do. And so a lot of these cats, they'll try to get to the building early, get out to the ring. All right, I want to try this move. I want to try my big time move. I want to try this move I seen on SmackDown last night. I want to try this move I've been looking on the internet as some other jabroni do, stealing people's stuff, like most people do in the wrestling business. I hate it. It's ridiculous.
Okay, Hughes. So what I was that's not exactly what I was talking about. What I was talking about was.
Well, I know exactly what you're talking about. I just had to say that.
Okay,
I wanted to get it out.
So why, if I ask you a question, you want to talk about something else?
Because it was on my mind.
So that's what I mean. So if you're going out there in front of the crowd and seeing what works, you know what I'm saying? You want to go out there and you're trying like certain things to see if this gets a reaction from the crowd or this gets a reaction from the crowd. And if it doesn't, then you don't. Kind of like a comedian. They go on stage. They practice some material. If the people don't laugh, then they don't use that. They change it up. They do something else. But is that sounding like something that's more like possible?
True, but like I said before, I mean, today wrestlers just don't get it. They just don't get it. And how plain can I be? I don't, be honest with you, AT, I don't even watch it no more on television. I'm just being honest. I used to love getting up, turning my TV on, and sitting there all day and watching wrestling. Now, don't get me wrong, I have tons of DVDs, but my DVDs of professional wrestling are old school DVDs. Why is that? Because the old school style of professional wrestling is what entertains me. That's what I enjoy watching. Why? Because the matches have psychology. I used to watch those. That's what I watched on top of my knowledge I had already when I became a trainer and taught you guys that. Because I wanted to teach you guys how the old timers did it. And so with that said, that's how a lot of guys got gigs right now today.
You see, that's something that I don't understand is like today it's like people listen to certain music and then they don't even give it a chance. They turn on one song and they say the whole album is trash. Or they go watch 5 seconds of a movie and then they say it's trash. How are you allowed to sit here and say that all wrestling is garbage if you don't give it a chance to go out and watch it? I'm sure, and I'm telling you this right now, if you go, and I know you might have to use a fine-tuned comb to go and find it, but there is good wrestlers out there. Just like last time, I told you to go check out the Revival. They're good, old school wrestlers. It's there, Hughes. You got to look.
I didn't say that there wasn't any good wrestlers out there. I did not say that. I just said that I don't watch it because majority of the garbage that's on television is garbage. People don't sell no more. People don't register no more. People don't tell stories anymore. You don't know who's a heel, who's a babyface. That, if you ain't doing that kind of wrestling, I'm not going to watch it. I don't care what year it is. You understand? If it's not going to entertain me, I'm not going to sit there and watch and waste my time. Just like when you guys came over here in my mansion tonight, I was watching Andy Griffith. And Odinson said, man, that's black and white. That's clear as I don't know what. Hey, it's what I enjoy. I watch Andy Griffin. I watch Madlock. I watch The Lone Ranger, Gunsmoke. I can go on and on and on. And with professional wrestling, I watch old school professional wrestling. Just like when I'll be posting and watching Harley Race matches that he'd had through the years, because that's the man that got me inspired to be a professional wrestler. Lord rest his soul. And so, so forth and so on.
So you don't think that there is a place in wrestling for all of the different kinds of wrestling?
It used to be like that. That's why we had territories. It used to be territories, man, where you had a variety of different styles of professional wrestling, but it was still professional wrestling. Today, you got guys want to try this, guys want to try this, trying to test the boundaries of what they can do in the ring or at a show, like we talked about there earlier, about guys doing stuff that with vulgar in it, that don't have nothing to do with professional wrestling. I can remember back in the day when all you saw in wrestling with a good match was blood. That was it. Now you see all kinds of foolishness, okay? And it's killing our business. I'm passionate about this, folks. I've been doing this over 30 years now, and I hate to see when young people come in this business, think they're going to take over and do stuff and kill it off for the next generations way after us. Like I said before, there's thousands of old-timers in the ground that paved the way for you and me to become professional wrestlers. Now, if people don't change their ways and listen to what I'm talking about, it ain't going to be nobody out there for y'all to go come watch it, and then you ain't going to get paid what you're trying to get.
So you don't think that if people just continuously going out there and keep doing the same type of wrestling that you like to do, or that you say is so good, that then the business has no chance to evolve? Everything has to be different. Everything has to evolve.
Okay, AT, let me tell you this, my friend. Okay, you're saying the wrestling has to come up to date. Now, haven't you noticed? Since what you're talking about, haven't you noticed that the business has started going down since all that garbage started? Haven't you noticed that? I can go to a show right now where shows used to be packed, sold out. You couldn't even get another body in the freaking building. Now, they have practically got to give the tickets away. You know why? Because people don't go no more. They don't go no more because it's not the same. I hear it all the time. When I go do these shows and do Fan Fest, and you got people that come through there that their heart is in professional wrestling. Been watching it since they came out the womb, man. And people are killing the business. And guys, people go, I don't like wrestling no more. It's not the same. I'm not entertained by it. Guys do nothing in the ring. You don't know who's the babyface, who's the heel. There's no psychology. There's no stories. Nobody does what kept the fans coming back. Period.
Exactly, Hughes. I understand. I'm just, I like to get you a little heated over here. I got to play the other side of the fence. I can't just be saying, I just can't be, you're lackey and getting a piggyback ride all the time off you.
Well, you like being on that other side of the fence. Ain't nothing wrong with that, but I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to defend this great sport called professional wrestling till the dirt. You understand? So if I see something that is going to kill it, something that's going to hurt this profession that I love doing, I don't want to be a grass cutter. I don't want to be a painter. I don't want to be a freaking surgeon. I want to be a professional wrestler, and that's what I've been doing for the last 30 odd years. And I've been teaching you guys for over 18 years how to do this stuff. And so if you can't do it the way I'm showing you, you're not going to make a living at it. Period.
Okay, so let me ring you about this one. Maybe it's just okay. So the way that we get, like, through our technology, the way that we get information is like it's so fast. So maybe it's too many wrestlers. What do you think about that? It's too many people trying to be professional wrestlers this day, and it's not that they have to go and work their way through the system. Nowadays with the internet, they could just boom, pop it on their Facebook or on their Instagram saying that they're a professional wrestler, and there it goes. That's them.
And that is what's killing the business, folks. It's getting oversaturated with a bunch of non-skilled so-called professional wrestlers, okay? You go online, just like you go online. You go on Facebook, and you go through all the freaking friend requests that I get. I got over 3,000 requests. I don't even get everybody because if I don't know you, I'm not going to push the button. But I see thousands and thousands of people calling themselves professional wrestlers, don't look like a professional wrestler, got just like they just put some gear together and call themselves a professional wrestler and tuck a picture. That is killing the business, folks. When you get oversaturated with something like that, a promoter will book anybody for $5 and then book them on the show and try to draw people in there and bring in one star. And that kills the business, folks. If people don't like what they see, they're not coming back. They're not going to tell their friends about the freaking show that was there, the time they were there. And so yes, AT, the business is oversaturated due to the internet, by the way. Because anybody can call so-and-so, hey, man, you think you can train me? I want to be a professional wrestler. How much you going to charge me? Oh, I charge you this much. Okay, they don't cost that much, even though the person that he's talking to about teaching them ain't qualified. Ain't been nowhere. Okay? Still on any scene. If you are a professional wrestler and you ain't been nowhere and you still on the indie level, okay, you're not qualified to teach anybody anything, folks. Because you're not going to learn. That person can't teach you anything. What are they going to teach you? How to be an indie wrestler? Is that all you want to be? I didn't get in this business just to be an indie wrestler, AT. I got in it to go to the top, and that's what I did. And, of course, and then I wanted to pass my knowledge on to you young people, and I did that. But I passed the knowledge on so you guys can succeed and be successful in the wrestling game.
Okay, so then this brings me back to my point that I tried, or the question that I had asked you a couple of podcasts ago. I believe it was on the O&I podcast. You think that you guys, as as old timers, I think you guys maybe have had it easier because you didn't have the internet. You didn't have to hide. I mean, it was easier for you to like hide and stay in the mystique than go forth and just have everybody want to be in your business. Everybody want to find out what you're doing today, what you're doing tomorrow. You understand what I'm saying?
Of course. Well, back in the day, yeah, of course, they didn't have no internet. They didn't have computers for everybody to use. Either you had a telephone at the house, and that's all you had, okay? And then you had television, period. Now, television back in the day was the avenue for fans to get a taste of professional wrestling. I started watching it back in the 70s when I was a little bitty fella, all right? And so when I started watching it, you didn't see a bunch of nothing. You saw some good quality wrestling, okay? Guys did not do the same boring match in the same building. Now, they might have went somewhere else in another town and did it because the fans hadn't seen it yet. But some guys come to the same spot, what the subject is about today, guys doing the same bloody match in the same spot. People didn't seen that match before, okay? But guys in the old days, they had matches, but the matches were very entertaining, man. You say we wasn't no phones, all we had was TV, and the TV brought you in to buy a ticket. Those guys got in that ring, did what they needed to do to make you say, hey, I'm going to go see that match. That's going to be a barn burner.
I understand. So basically, a person is supposed to strive their hardest to go out there and be as good as they can. Okay, so how about this? People have signature moves, whether it's in the shine, the heat, the cut, whatever. People have their signature moves. So if you only go out there and do your signature moves, that's how you get the same match over and over again.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, yeah, but as that what you're talking about is like when you say you go on the tour. Okay, for example, say you did some stuff on television. This is how it works, folks. To get you to buy a ticket, that's why they have TV shows. That's why they have wrestling on television. Back in the day, I'm talking about it the same way here, like up to the present. They put a match on television. Both guys cutting a promo. Okay, first of all, they had to get the angle started. How did they get the angle started? One of the guys jumped him. The heel did something dirty to him, caused them to set up the angle. Then they're in the back cutting a promo. All right, they're setting it up for the towns that they're going to go to. Okay, and so without the TV, they couldn't do this. So because people would not know what's going on when they go to these shows. So when they put the product on television and show the people, okay, this guy's fighting so-and-so because this so-and-so hit him with a chair when he wasn't looking and he started bleeding. Or something like, these guys jumped this guy, these guys are going to be in the tag, so forth and so on. And so with the TV, that helped people go and buy a ticket. Today, people try to use the internet to draw people in. It's a little more than that, folks, because some people do too much on the internet, and you can't just draw off the internet. You got to advertise, man. You want to draw money in the house, you got to advertise, period.
Yeah, the internet is definitely a curse, but it is also, it's a blessing as well. It's just how you use it.
Exactly. I mean, great thing to whoever came up with it. But I remember back in the day where we didn't have no freaking cell phone. Didn't have a beeper. All you had was a house phone and a map and a pay phone. Didn't have GPS. Everything was simple. Now everybody just, used to, if your phone break, you're in trouble. You act like you're going to die or something. You know what I'm saying? And, and guys, I'm going to tell you something. I heard and I seen different young guys learning moves in wrestling just by off the internet. On their phone, watching moves, watching stuff. I'm going to try that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this move. Off the internet instead of physically going to a trainer, to a building, and having someone teach them the ropes as far as the psychology goes. How to do this. How to protect the person you're wrestling. Things like that. Guys don't know how to protect the other person that they're wrestling. Some guys just try whatever. You ever seen that happen?
Yeah. Okay, Hughes. So a big reason why you stress to us to leave early to make sure we get to the gig on time, because you always say you never know what's going to happen. You just might, like you did, break down on the road. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That plays into the professionalism as well.
No doubt about it. Very important. So I'm glad you brought that up, man. And I taught you guys always leave. Say, for example, you got a 340-mile, 400-mile trip to get to the gig. And the gig might be, I'd say, 6 o'clock at night, okay? Now, just to be on the safe side, I'd leave at least 8 hours before. At least. Because if your car break down, if you know how to fix it, you'll get it fixed and get back on the highway. If your car, if you have a flat, you can get a tire, put it back on, get back down the road so you don't miss the gig and miss out on making that payoff. You understand? It's real important, people, because some guys leave at the last minute and now they're rushing. You can't stop and get nothing to eat. You can't stop and relax and stretch your feet. You can't do anything. And like I taught y'all, if you're gonna ride with Mr. Hughes, if I say we're gonna leave at a certain time, I'll give you 5 minutes after that time. If you're not there, I'm leaving. And I'm pretty sure a few of my students learned the hard way. You went up to AT.
Yeah, I've been like
Axel Ross, I can go on down the road. But my job as a trainer was to teach y'all how it works, just in case you roll with someone that has been taught that. You got to be prompt when you ride with other people. If you're riding with yourself, hey, that's on you. But when you ride with other people, and most guys ride with somebody else, you have to be respectful and go about listen to the guy's rules.
Okay, so I want to take it back to something that you just said. you said that people learn like things from the internet and they learn things from TV and then they go and try it. So before I even came to wrestling, I knew the formula of wrestling, and it was a big thing. The big thing was that gave it away was doing the same like what we're talking about now, the same formulaic match. Like in a tag match, there was always a double down, and I will always see it, and I will always count it, and then that's what hooked me in to then the comeback was coming, and then the falsies. So with that said, every match should not have a double down. Every match should not have false finishes, because like you said, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people to change up the formulas in their matches. But everybody wants to do their big moves. So how do you get rid of falsies but yet still do your big moves?
Well, here's the thing. With the internet, that's not going to happen. Unless you're the promoter, unless you're the booker, going specifically to each one of these individuals in the back, telling them what you would want them to do. That's how it's going to help. That's how it's going to get fixed. Because if you don't do it like that, guys are going to do what they want to do. They'll get the freaking finish. They'll do what the finish is supposed to be done. But in the meantime, they're going to do what they want to do because the promoter ain't told them exactly what they're looking for. They just say, hey, I need you guys to go for a finish. He's going over, period. And that's what's killing everything here. And guys don't get that.
Okay, so Hughes, but what if the promoter, like I see it a lot, the promoter is either he respects, like in quotation, he respects the person a lot to just trust him to know what they're supposed to be doing, or they're scared that if they go tell this person that they want him to do this or they don't want to do this, that the wrestler won't come back.
Who cares? I don't care if the wrestler, if I'm a promoter, all right, and I have confidence in my shows, and I have confidence in my guys that I book, I don't care what that person thinks. He's just a number, see? Like I teach you guys, when you're dealing with promoters, I teach you that, stay firm on what you're supposed to get. When you talk business with this guy, don't, accept I'll pay you later. Don't accept I'll give you half and send you a hot dog and a drink when you're in the back of the dressing room. Don't fall for none of that garbage. The promoter's job, he's the one that promoted the gig. He's the one that booked the talent. So if I promoted a show, like WWA4, every Thursday we did shows, I was the one, the pilot, that put the show together to show the people the product that's produced out of this place. And so I had to show you guys, okay, the first match, y'all gonna do this, but do what I taught you. So forth on down the line. And a lot of times, guys don't get that. The promoter's probably young as they are, and they go out there and do what they want to do. The first match be freaking 30 minutes, and you got 8 matches on the freaking card. I mean, I don't understand why they book shows and have 10 matches and all young guys doing the same daggone match.
So you just said that the wrestler, if he doesn't want to come back, then he's just a number. But at the same time, the big man in the big company, he doesn't want to just build one star because he's afraid that the person will leave and then he's stuck with nobody. So if they're just a number, a lot of people are saying that's what's wrong. Like that he doesn't want to build a star, but you're saying that if that star doesn't want to come back, then he's just another number.
Period. Exactly.
I know, but it's one person saying one thing, another person saying nothing. Who's winning here?
No. So, okay, for example, when I trained all you guys, right? And we had a lot of guys. So every Monday, we got in the ring and I said, all right, here's the card. Some guys didn't get to wrestle. You remember that?
Yeah.
Some guys did not get booked because the reason I did it that way, I'm trying to teach these kids how to be hungry, to be in that ring. And so if you didn't do it the way I wanted you to do it, you didn't get booked, period. So after that, I'd put the matches together. There would be 5 matches. We did no more than 5 matches on every show we did, except the Super Show. The Super Show had as much as 10 matches on it because it was a Super Show. But the regular show had 5 matches. And like I said, we'd have a meeting on Monday. I'd tell the guys the card, give the rundown on guys who were wrestling and guys that weren't wrestling, and tell them why they wasn't booked, because I did not want to oversaturate the show with more than 5 matches, because I wanted the people to be able to keep coming back to see more and more good wrestling. Now, What we're talking about here, when you bring the subject about guys that think they're superstars and thinking that the promoter is not gonna is gonna fail if the guy leaves them this and that. The promoter can care less if you leave. That's why I built everyone up. See, at the school I built everyone up. So if a guy was penalized and I took him off the show, it wouldn't hurt the show. Nobody was above the show. That's why I trained a lot of guys, and they were good wrestlers. So if a guy didn't act right, I took him off the show. Have that ever happened to you, AT?
I have never, ever been taken off a show or the show. I was there every night, sometimes wrestling 2 or 3 times a night. Thank you very much.
So with that said, that meant you followed the rules. You paid attention to what I was trying to teach you. Therefore, that's why you became a good professional wrestler. Some guys didn't listen. Some guys thought they were better or smarter than the teacher, and a lot of them ended up quitting. They're not wrestling anymore. The most important thing about this whole deal, folks, is respect. And without that, respecting the business, okay? Because some guys don't understand the business, so they don't know what to respect. But going back to this, if you want people to buy a ticket, to sit down in a chair and watch the gig for a 2-hour gig, you have to stop doing the garbage.
And stop doing the exact same thing over and over.
And stop doing the exact same thing. The topic of the subject. Wrestlers doing the same old boring, bloody matches. Period.
So, Hughes, in your opinion, back in the day, I hear a lot of people talk about this, that they would like hold off the stars. They would put the people that they wanted to bring up on the show, and then the stars, they'd just come there every now and then, just to bring some people in the door, and you didn't get to see the same guy every night, so you wouldn't see the same matches every night. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, I can relate to that because I used to be, I used to do that with myself when I got booked. I get booked somewhere in Boston or somewhere in Florida or somewhere around the country, and I'd be the only star on the card. Because that's just how it is with some promoters. They can afford to pay one superstar, and everybody else will be either locals or just a couple hundred miles away guys that come down for a fee. Okay, and so I used to see that all the time, and it's real simple because some guys can't afford a whole card of freaking superstars, okay? Unless you got a ton of sponsors and you got a lot of money in the bank already when you book this talent. So that's why some guys, promoters will bring 1 star and maybe 2, and those 2 will probably work each other. But as far as that goes, it doesn't affect, as far as the business goes.
So then, what do you think about the every promotion using the same old recycle wrestlers, like using the same people over and over and over again?
Oh, I can't stand it, man. I see it online all the time on the internet. I respond to things like that. I might see a poster, and it'll have tons of people on there, Caucasians, but don't have no brown people on there. And I'll say, y'all need some color on that freaking poster. Hey, listen here, man. It's professional wrestling. Come on now. Okay? Let's get the prejudice stuff out of this. All right? You got black folks everywhere. You got white people everywhere. You got Hispanics everywhere. You got every nationality there is on this planet that go to a show. So you got to cater to everyone. You cannot cater just to your buddies, okay? That's what the business is doing sometimes. They cater to their friends. They'll book their freaking friends and leave the good wrestlers that draw money sitting at home. And I get tired of it. I see it all the time, AT, with these posters, like I just said.
Exactly. So it would be more of a importance to the promoters if they are bringing in those same guys for the top of the card and then refreshing the bottom of the card with new fresh faces. So you always got new people coming in, seeing different things, different week, is what you're saying?
Exactly. But some promoters don't do it like that because you know why? They don't want to spend all that extra money. They want to keep as much money coming to their pocket as possible. That's why they use the same old boring wrestlers every time they do a show. You see a poster, you put 2 or 3 posters from these shows that they did, and you can see the same people on the same bloody poster. And that is not how you do it, folks. If you don't have no freaking TV, there's no need to do it like that. You got to get different talent coming through there so people, you can keep it fresh. So when fans come, they can say, oh man, I seen this one wrestler last time. And I seen this other wrestler. He was great. Instead of saying I seen the same old boring matches last time I was there, I'm not coming anymore. That's what kills towns.
So is it possible that even if okay, so say 100 people, you're working for 1,000 people, it's a lot easier to work different matches in front of 10 people? It's harder, right? Like the least amount of people in there is like the different you have to be in the show.
It don't matter. I don't care if it's 5 people in the house. I didn't wrestle in front of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, okay? It don't work like that. The whole objective is to get people to say something. You got to know how to wrestle, period. If you don't know how to wrestle, the people are not going to respond. Because why? They don't like what they're seeing. They don't believe what they're seeing. There's no psychology, period.
Hughes, it comes to a point where I think that you need to stop being a trainer and start being a promoter, because every show and every subject that we start with, we say it's the wrestlers, but then it always comes back on the promoter instead of the wrestler.
Well, it's real important that people understand that it starts with the wrestler, period, okay? The wrestler, he's the one that's going in doing the shows. The promoter is the one behind the scenes that's paying everybody, that's setting up the gig, see? All right? So for example, you going into, a promoter calls you, you talk business with him, you go to the show, and you show up, right? You show up. That's your obligation. You cut the deal with the promoter, and y'all have, you cut a deal. It's time to go to work, right? But when you talk to him, he called you for a reason. He called you because he knows that you're a talented wrestler, and you're going to bring something to his show. Now, some promoters don't look at it like that. They'll use 1 or 2 people, their main people, and then bring in the garbage. That's what kills the gig.
Okay, so then let me ask you about this then, Mr. Hughes. What do you think about 60-year-old heavyweight champions, and then the rest of the card is filled with young talent that could clearly beat those older guys?
Well, here's the deal on that. Back in the day, okay? Back in the day, wrestlers were 50 years old back in the day wrestling, okay? Now you see all these young people in the game, okay? But back in the day, when you turn that television on, you have 40 or 50 freaking 5-year-old men out there wrestling, right? Doing 60 freaking hour matches without doing a bunch of nothing. They knew psychology. That's why they last so long. Nowadays, these guys don't last that long because they do all this bunch of nothing. You follow me so far? So you're saying about this 60-year-old guy being the champion, he deserves to be the champion if he's a freaking superstar in his time. I mean, I don't care, because if everybody else on the card can't wrestle, who's going to carry the torch for the freaking company?
So you don't think that you putting on your suspenders every match and going out there, you don't think that you're taking a spot from a younger talent that could have possibly been in your place? I'm going to say it again. I said, you don't think that you lacing up, putting on your suspenders and going out there and cussing out these fans is not taking a spot from one of these younger wrestlers that could have went out there and did it?
I'm going to tell you something, AT. What these young cats should do in that situation is look, listen, and learn, period. That's what you do. When you got somebody like that, what you're talking, this veteran like this, if that was me and I was a young person, I'd be like, I'm trying to learn as much as I can from this old dude because he's been around. He's been to the mountaintop. I can learn a lot from this guy. I can't learn nothing from some 23-year-old dude in there doing backflips and freaking spots.
But my thing is this, you as an old person, you can still you can get out there and you can still move around. But it comes to some point that it's clearly sad that these guys are going out there and they should have no reason to be out there.
Well, this business, once you get in it, it's like a profession that you love, and you're trying to do it to the dirt. Okay. Same thing with myself. I take care of myself so I can go out there and still perform for the people. So I can entertain these people. So when they see Mr. Hughes is on that card, on that marquee, they're going to buy a ticket because they're going to say he's not lazy. He entertains us, period. He gives us our money's worth. And if you're not that, if you get booked and you can't give the people their money's worth, get in something else.
Listen, I'm not meaning to sit here and cuss you out and call you old and stuff like that. When you get out there, you do your shtick and you get the crowd moving. And Hughes, don't sit up here and act like you are the crowd prince of going out there and doing a different match every night. Every time you go out there, I see the same dang garbage.
Well, here's the thing.
Oh, but it's not garbage. I'm sorry, it's not
garbage.
Here's
the thing. Okay, but when you see this, where are we? We're not in the same place.
Right.
We're not in the same building. It's
Right.
not on television,
Right.
see? So the people haven't seen what I'm doing. You follow me? And that is the key to all this. Some guys go to the same spot. That's what I'm talking about. They go to the same booking, the same building every month doing the same boring garbage. That's what the subject is about today. Now, AT is saying that when you go to a Mr. Hughes gig and you see Mr. Hughes, you're going to see a match. Now, if I had never been to that town, you're never going to see the match that I had previous in another town. But to protect my body and protect my limbs and everything, I'm not going to do a bunch of garbage and hurt myself like I used to do back in the old days when I was 20-something years old, taking 20 bumps a show. Okay, foolishness. I learned. I don't do that no more. But now I do what I do as a character, and it gets over. The fans are not like they're sitting in a mausoleum. They're screaming. They're booing. I'm doing my job. I get the babyface over with wrestling, period. And if you do it that way, folks, like I used to tell y'all, man, to understand and learn, you have to try the things I'm telling you and teaching you. Go out in the ring and try it so you can see for yourself that it works.
Okay. See, this podcast is me just testing you over and over and asking you, just trying to get you going. Okay, so how about this? Brock Lesnar, he goes out and he has the exact same match every single time. Okay, but listen, Hughes, listen. He goes out there and he has the exact same match every single time. But that's what the fans want to see. They want to see him go out there and do that exact same thing every time.
Well, for example, you're saying Brock Lesnar does the same match. But here's the deal. Brock is a bad SOB. When he does something, it's believable. That's the difference here. But when you see other guys try to do the same match, it looks fake as a freaking $3 bill. Okay? But when Brock does it, it's totally believable. That's the difference.
Okay. Listen, I'm just trying to test you and see if you really mean exactly what you say. And so far, you've backed your word. So basically, what you're saying is, you can go out there and do the same match. You can go out there and do the same match in different towns. It's just the fact that the people that are going out there and doing the same garbage match that's not working, that's not getting over, and they just, for some reason, I don't understand why they keep going out there and doing it.
In their mind, they're thinking that they're getting over. But like I taught you guys, you have to learn to use your freaking ears, period. You have to listen to the crowd, man, how they respond. If people ain't teaching you this on your beginner journey, then you're not going to know this. You have to, when you walk down that aisle out that dressing room and you walk into that ring, if you're a babyface, you do babyface things. If you're a heel, you do heel things. A babyface, when he goes to the ring, he slaps everybody like he's happy all the way around the freaking ring before he gets in the ring. A heel don't want nobody to touch him as he walks into the ring. He's got a smirk on his face. He's looking. He don't want people to touch him. He don't want to shake nobody's hand. He's establishing, I'm the heel. I don't want you to like me. The babyface is establishing he's the good guy. I want you to like me. I want you to cheer for me when I get in trouble. I want you to cheer for me when I'm doing something great. That is what's lacking today.
Exactly, Hughes, because I've seen probably Ziggler, like I could use Ziggler and Miz as an example. I've seen them wrestle week after week on TV, and I never see the same match over and over. They've been wrestling each other for years, and I still never see the same match.
And that is what I'm talking about good wrestling, okay? Exactly what you just said. These guys been wrestling each other over and over and over, and they don't do the same exact match. Perfect example on how you do this stuff. Like if I wrestled you before, I wrestled Odinson before, I wrestled a lot of my students, okay? Because I wanted to see how really good I did on my job of teaching you, and I could say I did a great job.
Exactly, Hughes. So you do know, okay, I'm going to start telling you this here so people know you do have the opening of your podcast, okay, and you have the closing of your podcast. So instead of waiting this full hour to bring on Odinson, I think we should do it now, because then we have a free 5 minutes to bring Odinson in here, have your closing, your opening, and then people aren't sitting here for 2+ hours, because originally you told these people they was going to be sitting here for an hour and a half.
No doubt about it. And so with that said, folks, I hope you like the subject we had for the day of why wrestlers do the same matches in the same building over and over again with garbage. So with that said, folks, I appreciate you listening to the first half of the Total Protection Mr. Hughes podcast with my co-host, the ATLien. Now, we'll be right back right after this. All right, folks, Total Protection Mr. Hughes back with you for our second half of the Total Protection Mr. Hughes podcast. And I hope you like the first half of the Total Protection Mr. Hughes podcast, folks. We got in deep, no doubt about it, me and the ATLien, talking about how guys go to the same gig doing the same old boring freaking matches. Without any further ado, this gentleman here, big gentleman, came into the WWE 4 and just tore it up, folks. Very impressive when I saw him when he signed up. Folks, I'd like to introduce Big Odinson Reggie Gibbs to the Total Protection Podcast. What's up, Mr. freaking Odinson?
What's up, Hughes? How you doing? Thank you for having me today.
Man, I tell you, like I say, folks, every week we're going to have one of my former stars on here from the WWE 4 that I trained, trying to get the whole freaking history of what inspired them to be a professional wrestler. What was the bug that bit them, that made them want to come to Total Protection Mr. Hughes to get some good old schooling? So, with that said, Odinson, Reggie, Gibbs, man, what and who inspired you to start on this journey that you are on at this present moment of professional wrestling? Tell everybody.
Man, Mr. Hughes, really, the first real memories of wrestling I have was Kane. Kane before he spoke normally. Kane when he was just a monster and destroyed everybody. Kane was professional wrestling to me. Like, that was the guy I was like, oh shit, like this guy, he was Michael Myers. He could murder everybody. And to me, that was just larger than life, and for that to be in like a sporting arena was really, really awesome to me.
So Kane was the one that inspired you to want to be a professional wrestler, because I'll tell you something, folks. I mean, if you saw Odinson, if you ain't never seen him, he's a big dude. He works out. He's buff to the freaking max. And so with that said, you said Kane got you interested in the business. So when did you decide to start inquiring about where facility in the world that you were going to go? How did you freaking go about finding the WWE 4?
Right. So there was obviously a long period of time before I became a fan of professional wrestling and went to wrestling school. So Kane got me into professional wrestling. And from there, really until I remember him taking off his mask, and that was kind of disappointing. And then the next guy that came along was Brock Lesnar, and that was the guy I was really like, geez, this is the man. Like, this is the guy I want to be like. So literally, I started lifting weights. I started training in the weight room because I wanted to look like Brock Lesnar. And that carried out from middle school through high school, took me through a career in powerlifting and Highland Games, where I did pretty well, and then eventually led me to professional wrestling at the WWA 4. And actually, I'd been powerlifting for a few years. I was at an elite level, squatting 800 pounds, deadlifting 7, benching 6. So a 2,100 total when I was 21 years old. And something about it just wasn't fulfilling. And from there, I just thought, well, really, my wife asked me, like, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a professional wrestler. So from there, literally, I had a Facebook friend who just started at the WWA 4. And I saw that he started there, and I was like, oh, I know that dude. So I hit him up and looked up the WWA 4 from there and saw that it was legit. So that's really where it started.
Okay, so with that said, so where are you originally from? I know that, once you got your character and all that, we'll get to that in a minute, but we want to get the infancy, the genesis of Odinson at the present moment. So originally, where are you from? I asked all my guests on the show where they're from, where they originated from. The ATLien, he's from Detroit, Michigan. SP the Ghost, he's from Detroit, Michigan as well. Apollo, he's from New York. So where is Odinson from?
Odinson is from the great Northwest, Spokane, Washington. It's literally the opposite side of the United States from Georgia. So me and my wife moved about 3,000 miles to come to wrestling school down here. And it's a lot different than Washington down here, that's for sure.
No doubt about it. So, sitting here looking at you, and when you first came and seen yours truly, you were a beast. So when actually did you started working out in the weights, man? When did you actually start? Because I started when I was, in the 6th grade. So I started a long time ago.
Yeah.
So when did it really start for you?
I remember I started doing a little bench pressing and curling in about the 7th grade. Doing that in my room. Eating cans of tuna while I worked out because I thought that was going to make me more buff because, protein and everything.
No spinach, huh?
No. Yeah, he wasn't too popular. He wasn't that jacked.
So he wasn't a Popeye guy.
Yeah, he didn't have biceps, just the forearms.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I was more an Arnold guy.
Cool.
So, it started about 7th grade and then got really, really serious about when I was 16 after wrestling season. In high school, my sophomore year, I started really lifting seriously and put on about 30 pounds in a good 2-3 months.
Oh man,
just
awesome.
lifting really hard, and then from there on, I was just like, man, screw football, screw baseball, screw wrestling. I'm just gonna power lift, and I did that for about 4 years straight.
So were you into any competitions though, in the weights or anything like that?
Yeah, I started competing when I was 17 in bench press only competitions. I think my first ever competition, I bench pressed 275 at the 242 weight class, and then my best ever powerlifting was the. It was the 308, no, it was 275 weight class, 800 pound squat, 700 pound deadlift, 600 pound bench press when I was 20.
That was a lot of weight.
And that was my best ever competition.
Awesome, lot of freaking weight, man.
Yeah, that was an elite level.
No doubt about it. So with all those competitions, did you get any medals? Did you get money? How'd that work? How did they do that back then? Because I didn't get to that. I didn't do all that. Even though I was a strong guy in high school and college, I didn't have no competitions like that. But sitting there looking at you, you can look like you can still get in there and do some freaking some competitions here. No doubt about it. Probably win some money at it.
Yeah, I mean, powerlifting is one of the reasons why I really question it, because you put a lot of money into it and didn't get much out of it. So I would win some competitions, but it was maybe I'd come out even. I mean, it's not too much different from independent wrestling, but
Right.
it's I mean, it was you put a lot into it and didn't get much out of it unless you're like top 20 power lifter in the world. You're not making any real money at it. There's not a lot of guys making money, and plus, anyways, to me, wrestling was always what I wanted to do. Powerlifting was just an aspect of becoming a wrestler, really.
Gotcha. So with that said, how did you find? You say you went online and you saw Buddy that was already doing the stuff,
Right.
And so how did you come about finding WWA 4?
Really, it was like after I saw, CM Punk's DVD, and talking about how he came basically from nothing and then was the best in the world, and I was like, wow, if this guy can do it, then shit.
Right.
No disrespect or anything, but no, like if someone like that could become the best in the world, I'm like, why am I not even trying? Like, like I have skills, I have potential, so
Yeah.
that's that's why I tried. So
explain to me,
yeah,
when you found Frank at the WWA 4.
yeah. Jeez.
Prior to you coming,
Yeah.
what did you do as far as to get the money? Because it was, the fee was $990.
Right.
So
No.
tell the story, because you told me that story before amongst us talking together. And I'm pretty sure the fans out there listening in the internet world would like to know, how did you go about getting yourself together as far as coming to see yours truly?
Basically, I was powerlifting, making no money, working as a bouncer back in Spokane, Washington. And then it became a real thing, like, oh, there's a wrestling school, and it costs this much money. And I'd already proposed to my wife. We already knew we were going to get married, so we took everything that we had from the wedding and moved straight to Atlanta the next week. So we had our wedding, and then the next week we moved to Atlanta, and I started at WWA 4. I actually walked into school, and I remember I was like, oh, hi. I walked in, and you were sitting at the desk, like on the computer looking at something, and you're like, oh. I was like, oh, yeah, that's my first day. And you're like, oh, yeah, no, I recognize you. And I was like, oh, really? And you're like, yeah, you're the one wrestler. And I was like, oh, no, it's my first day.
Very.
You're like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, the way you looked, I thought you might have been this one wrestler that I see.
No, I appreciate
world.
it. No, yeah, it was flattering.
Yeah, and so
I did not take it in a bad way whatsoever.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I remember that when that happened. So you came in, you talk, you sit down. I introduced you. You talked to Frank. You talked to me, and
yeah, I already had everything paid before I got there.
Smart move, no doubt about it.
Took me about 2 hours to find that school on that block.
So let me ask you this. When you got the address and you came down Fulton Industrial Boulevard and you had to make that left at the light on Commerce Drive and you was going up around the hill there, how many times did you pass the strip club before you realized it was behind that?
At least 5.
And that's the God's honest truth. Everybody that came to that school passed it at least 3 or 4 times before they called Frank and say, where is this place at?
I honestly thought that we had been robbed.
And that's a hell of
that we had driven 3,500 miles for $1,000 for nothing. That was real.
Right.
So,
I mean, awesome story, no doubt about it. So all right, so you came into Atlanta, you found a place to live. Did you find a spot before, when you came down first? Where'd you stay? Did you stay down at the hotel? Did you have an apartment? How did everything work out once you got to Georgia?
Geez, we went straight to the closest hotel we could find that was doing like weekly fees. And we were there for like 3 weeks, and it was really expensive for those 3. Like a week was like $300 or something. It was not sustainable. And then we found some guy that was at WWA 4 that was living with a fella who had gotten arrested and basically wasn't living in his house anymore, and we took over his spot in the house and started paying his part of the rent, and that was the first place we lived in down here.
Man, thank God for that. That worked out great, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, how blessed could you be when you come up on something like that?
For real.
So you found a place to live there. Now, did you have all your gear ready to go? Like I did when I first decided I wanted to be a wrestler. I ordered my gear before I got my training. Before I even actually started training, I ordered all my gear, my boots, my tights. Did you already knew that this is the direction that you wanted to go? So did you buy all your stuff ahead of time like I did, or did you wait until you see if this is what you really wanted to do?
Well, I knew that this is what I really wanted to do, but I had no direction into what kind of any kind of gear or character that I wanted to get into when I first got down here. So no, I didn't have any gear. I mean, it was just shorts and tennis shoes, and that was basically it. Like, I didn't even wear shirts at the school. Like, it was so hot in there. It was
no
pointless.
doubt about it. Back then, yeah, before they fixed the roof, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we started training, right? You know, I was taking you through drills. I had other people show you things to get you caught up up to speed. But I physically showed you how to do the basics, how to hit the ropes, how to lock up, the psychology on everything, and you picked it up quickly. It was just like Nation. It was like AR Fox. Just different guys, different guys that came in to train were easy to teach. I show you something, and the thing that I was most impressed with was how you looked, how you moved in the ring. And so once I saw that, I said, this guy's going to be good. And so, when you first started in that ring, man, was it really like what you thought, or was it like not? Explain.
Man, that first day when I got in there, I remember stepping through the ropes, and you telling me how to shake everyone's hand first. So I went around and shook everyone's hand first, and then I walked through the ropes. And the ring was a lot more serious than I thought it was going to be. Like, the ropes were way harder than I thought they were going to be. The mat was way harder than I thought it was going to be. So I had an expectation, and it was more difficult than that, but not in a bad way. Like Apollo said, it was like a Rocky-like setting. Like, it was like, you know, some people like being tested and like being put through the shit and then coming through it, you know. Some of us don't want an easy way, so it was really up my road, and I really appreciated how serious WWA 4 was.
No doubt about it. So how was it when you first took your first bump? When I showed you how to take that first back bump, what'd you think about it?
Man, I remember it was about what I expected, except for my head kind of rang a little more than I thought it was gonna. And then I remember thinking, like, okay, I need to keep my neck more tight and not be so loose. So it got better. Like, the bumps were bad. Like, really, the ropes left physical bruises on my back for a couple weeks, and that was way more painful than any bump, really. So,
no doubt. We talked about that too when Apollo was talking, SP the Ghost, and all the guests I had on the show. That part, you hit the ropes, and then a few days later your back is sore as hell. And I said one guy went to the emergency room because his back was so sore, and I told him not to go. He's gonna have to pay $1,000, and he went anyway. Didn't pay me no mind. So you took the bombs, man, and we get to the part to where I started showing you all the other, like the high flying moves, like the flying cross bodies and all that. Yeah. And what was very impressive about you doing that stuff as a big guy, because as a big guy, I used to do stuff like that, and it was very impressive. Yeah. Like I told Moose, if you do this like this, you'll get over better. Like I told you, if you do drop kicks, if you do stuff like this that big guys don't do, people will follow you. And I wanted to test you. So I asked you to do this see if you can do the drop kick with the bag and hold up the bag, and you did it perfect. You had great agility. You got off the freaking ground and you hit the freaking bag, and then we got a live body, a head in there so you can hit.
Yep.
So once I showed you how to do that drop kick, and I saw that you knew what you're doing, what was going through your mind, man, when I showed you how to do that drop kick? What did you think? Hey, can I do this? Or did you have any doubt of learning the stuff I was trying to teach you?
Like with the drop kick, I remember it specifically because drop kicks are so impressive when they look good.
Mm-hmm.
So I always in my mind, I don't know, I have like a perfect version of moves and how things should look. So I had an image in my mind of how a drop kick should look. Because even though people do it technically right, it's still ugly as hell sometimes. But like the way I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, this is the way I want it to be. And I remember I did it one time on the pad, and I think it was Darkmon, Navy. Like I did it one time, and he was just like, "Oh, you got it."
Right.
And I was like, "Okay." And then I got brought into the ring, and then drop kicked somebody, and it was like, "Okay, good." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that was easy."
And so, you know, we showed you drop kicks, and I was like, man, just like when I was used to do with AR Fox, I saw this guy had a lot of ability and agility to do a lot of things, and so when I would go home, I would sit there thinking of things I could have you do in that ring, because you was kind of impressive on most of the stuff I was showing you. You were picking it up well, and one in particular, we got to the part about doing the freaking suplexes. You remember that? The suplexes, and you would throw guys so freaking far.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I had to tell you to move up towards the rope a little bit so they can land without hitting the freaking wall. Tell us about those, man.
I remember the first time you had me learn the various suplexes was with Big Bear Boone, because he was the biggest dude by far. Not the tallest dude, but the widest dude. And you had me go with him, and that's how I learned to do every suplex on. So I couldn't give anything less than 100%, or else my back was going to break.
Correct.
Suplexing this guy. He's legit like 350, 400 pounds.
Easy.
Yeah, and I remember the belly to belly off the rope. And I just remember thinking, oh, geez, like, how am I going to do this? And I remember planting and putting both my hands on his quads and just falling backwards and throwing as hard as I could. And that's how I hit because there was no way I was going under his arms and throwing him.
Right.
It was by the quads. So I went by his quads and threw him over. And we got it first time. And you were like, great, there it is. And I was like, oh, thank Odin. Like,
right. And I always had you go with Big Bear. We talked about Big Bear a few other times on the podcast. A great guy, great wrestler. I love it. He has great promos.
Oh yeah.
And so I used to have you go with Big Bear because he was a big guy. You were a strong guy. So if you were going anybody any smaller, you would have threw him out the freaking roof. So I had you go with Bear so you can get the true feeling of when you threw a real freaking wrestler. You follow me?
Right, yeah.
And so that helps you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that helped you along the way. And so
For sure.
and so you know, we went through all the training and showed you how to do the punches. Now this is what I really want you to explain.
Yep.
Because that punch is very important. The punch, some people don't know how to throw a punch where it's believable. The whole key when you throw a punch is it has to be believable.
Yep.
And the guy that you're throwing the punch must sell it correctly so the people can buy it. So when I showed you that punch, I showed you one time and you got it. I mean, did you understand it from the way I explained it, or you just visualized what you were seeing and you just went to it? Tell me about it.
I don't know. There's something watching wrestling, I always wanted to figure it out. But not only figure it out, just visually it looks so cool to me. Like, even the punches, like snapping the elbow down, like, I don't know, it's always something I saw in wrestling. So in my mind, I always thought that that's how punches should be thrown. And, like, you know, having your fist open a little bit, not socking the guy in their jaw, you know, knowing where to hit and everything, obviously. But just that snap of the elbow and the follow-through that you taught, like, it just made it so much more real looking, and then especially shaking out the wrist afterwards, after a punch.
Yeah.
I still to this day I don't punch anybody without making it mean something. You
Exactly.
know? Yeah.
Just the way I taught you. So now, so also too, the moonsault. Tell me about that one, dude.
Moonsault. Jeez. At the school, the only moonsault I remember doing, I rolled my ankle.
Didn't do that no more. Did you?
And I remember it was when Nation, UHA got signed, and it's Apollo Crews, you know, he's getting pushed, all this. I'm like at WWA 4, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this moonsault, I'm going to do the shooting star, all this. So I was practicing for a minute, and I was like, oh, I got the standing moonsault pretty well on the pad. I'm going to just do a moonsault onto my feet. And I did the moonsault onto my feet on the pad, and the pad, you know, was not stable. Rolled my ankle, couldn't walk right for a week, and I said, no, UHA could have that. I'm not about that at all.
Right.
So now any flips, that has nothing to do with Odinson nowadays.
Yeah. All right. So we went through the training process, taught you everything you needed to know. You were great at it. And then we got to eventually, we started doing the promos on Wednesday. Now, prior to those promos, you were starting to do like when I put you guys in the ring, I'd be in the corner and I put you guys through stuff. I tell you to do stuff like you're having a match, just to show you how to have a wrestling match. Yep. And we did that accordingly, and we did that for a minute so you could understand. You picked it up pretty good, picked it up pretty fast. Then on Wednesday, we would start working on promos. Now, explain to the people out there in the internet world, when we started doing these promos, were you nervous, were you scared, or did you already have some kind of clue how you was going to cut your promos?
Man, promo-wise, that was the least confident part of my game I was in. I mean, hear my voice right now, like, I don't sound like how I look. I know this. So, delivering promos was not the easiest thing, but I remember the first day I was there, you were having everybody do promos. You were like, oh, next, and I was like the third person. I was like, oh, I'm just going to go. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm just going to go, and if I bomb, like, I'm sure it wasn't good. Like, promo, like, big monsters, I don't think should talk much. They shouldn't have a lot to say, so I just feel like giving 30-second, 1-minute promos, that's not my game. So still to this day, promos, nah.
Well, I mean, you know, we're gonna get to it in a minute, but eventually, man, you started barking out some good freaking promos with the character that you came up with. We're gonna get that in a minute. But we got you trained, man. I mean, you know, going through all the different the trainings and the drills, and you were passing with flying colors. Then we get to the part about the 5-minute match. The 5-minute match. When I came to you and I said, hey, Odinson, I believe you're ready to graduate. You're going to have your test, your 5-minute match. Man, tell us about what was going through your mind. Was you nervous about it? Did you feel you was ready to go? Tell us about it.
Man, I don't remember if I had an official 5-minute match. And if I did, it was definitely against Axl Ross. But my first full match memory in the ring was at the Super Show with Axl. Because I remember you saying I was going to debut, and then I didn't for like 2 months. And then I did it at the Super Show. Like, I don't even know if that 5-minute match happened. Like, if it did, it was against Axl. And
I believe
I went over with the F10, and that had to have been it. I mean, that was the first match.
Yeah, I believe it was with Axl, because we had a good little house of students there.
Oh, yeah.
And after you had that match, you know, we used to do the thumbs up, thumbs down. And, you know, I always had in my mind if you passed or not, if you did the right things.
Right.
And all the students I would ask the students how they felt if you passed or not. Now, when I did that, in your mind, what was you thinking? Did you know you had passed, or did you just didn't care, or what? Tell us about it.
Oh, no, like, I really didn't have any doubt. Being the like biggest, most muscular guy that's athletic and knows all the moves, doesn't really have any doubt. The match felt like it went good. So
Yeah.
like physically and visually, I knew that it looked good if I felt it went good. So
Okay, so some guys, it took them more than one time to pass on their 5-minute match. So how many times it took you to pass?
like I think if I had one, it was once. So
Exactly. Oh, I remember you had
if
one.
it was that first, it was the
Yeah.
first one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember you had one. Everybody had one.
Yeah,
And,
it was a confusing time.
Yeah. But I
It's like,
remember-
are you going to be in the show? Are you not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember when you did pass and everybody had thumbs up. Nobody had the thumbs down because I think they were scared of you because you was a little beast.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
They probably thought you was
So-
going to beat them up.
Exactly.
And so you passed.
It's that
and-
realism that doesn't come along much anymore.
Right. So you passed and you graduated. And your
Yep.
first gig, you say, was at the Super Show, correct?
Yep, it was Axel Ross. I won the match with my signature move, the F10, which I came up with at WWA 4. I remember you were having me go through all the heavyweight moves, power bomb, choke slam, torture rack, everything. And then you said, why don't you do a tornado spin and then stop and then do an F5? And I said, well, what if I don't stop and do an F5? And you were like, yes, do that.
That was perfect.
Yep. And I remember hitting it on Owen Knight, and he spun like a helicopter blade and hit the mat, and the whole school popped. And you looked at me, and you're like, yep, that's your finish from now on. And I was like, all right.
It was the perfect finish, folks. I mean, what he's talking about is, my thing was to help these young men come up with ways to better themselves after they graduated from the WWA4 and go out to the world and do their professional wrestling gigs. And so my job was to help them come up with a finish, because one of my pet peeves was not doing everybody else's finishes that's on TV. All the stars, like they killed the freaking DDT, they killed the pile driver, they killed all these freaking finishes that these other old timers used to use to win freaking matches, and they kick out of everything. So I explained to Odinson and everybody else that I trained, come up with your own finish. We got 5 rings in here. There's no reason why you should not be able to work on something safe to be able to do to anyone. Because I remember you did the F10 to Big Bear Boone.
Oh, yeah.
And the people went nuts.
Oh, yeah.
But Boone,
Because we got the finish over.
Exactly, but that's important. You get the finish over, and that was my main thing of teaching these kids how to work. That was the key word now, work. And so you came up, we got together. I helped you come up with the freaking finish. You got in there and did it. And because I was thinking in my mind, I said, man, this finish would be awesome, because I never seen anybody do it. And that's why I said, do it this way. Even though, Brock did the F5, well, we're going to call it a tornado spin and do it the F10. Why not? And he's still doing it to the day. And nobody else is doing that move, just you, period. Right?
Yep, that's exactly right. I remember I'd seen Brock Lesnar do a 360 F5 to Shannon Moore maybe in 2001. And that was something that stuck with me forever. And then when you told me to do that F5 and then stop, and I was like, no, I'm not going to stop. And then it was like, okay, and it worked out so great.
It was beautiful. It was great.
It was meant to be. It was something I've been thinking about since I was a little kid. So it was perfect.
Well, that's a good thing. So okay, so now, we're doing matches now. You passed your 5-minute match now. You graduated. You did your Super Show. You worked with Axel Ross, very talented young man. Talking about retiring, I don't know what for. You got to have a career first to retire. But you've been very impressive, right? And so now we're starting these different. You start to have these different matches with people, starting feuds with different people. Explain to me all your big feuds you had at the WWA4.
Man, that first one I had with it was with Axel. We did 3. We did 3 matches. The second match, he caught me with I think it was a 360 super kick he beat me with. And then the third match, I think I hit him with another F10 to finish that feud. And then the next one was against Darkmon.
Big Darkmon, yes.
Big Navy, yeah.
Right.
The near 7 foot tall.
What was it like wrestling with Navy? I wrestled Navy before as well, but because he was a little stiff with me, but I taught him I taught him a lessons and he got unstiff.
Yeah, that was my first experience with any kind of, really any wrestling. Like, I went from Axel straight to Darkmon, and we wrestled 7 matches in a row. So it was like...
At the school?
Yeah. Like 7 in a row.
I booked that.
You booked that.
It must was good.
You were Baron Black. I think Baron might have been booking at that time. Yeah, it was... Yeah, we did a Beyond match after like the 4th match. It was nuts. He was giving me choke slams off the stage.
But it was good stuff though.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, it's crazy.
Stuff.
It was before its time, really. Like,
oh yeah, it was awesome.
If you watch it now, it's like, oh, okay, they're doing a lot. It's too much. But geez, 4 years ago, nobody was doing that shit. So
right, so
it was ahead of its time, and really, like, I was just ignorant and didn't know what I was doing, so I was just down for anything.
Well, the fans
really.
That's the
oh
key,
yeah, exactly.
That was important.
We were popping the
what y'all were
fans,
doing.
so I was like, okay, we're doing something right.
Right, and so you had you had a long run with freaking Navy.
Oh yeah, and I survived.
And you survived, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
because
not everyone did.
And then you did. Who else you did a feud with?
Oh man, I was double champion for like 6 months. So
right,
I feuded with everyone, man. Like,
so you did you work Moose?
No, Moose. I had a spot with. I had a spot in a battle royal. And we had a cool little spot. I think I gave him a suplex or a T-bone suplex or something. But me and Moose didn't do a lot.
But you guys did a couple of matches, right?
We did a couple of spots. I don't think we had any one-on-one matches.
Okay. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. Now, then Solution came along. Then explain to me, your Solution, because eventually you guys became a tag and.
Solution came in, and him from day one. I looked at him, and it was one of those alpha male situations where we looked at each other and we looked at each other's biceps, and we were like, "What's up, bro? What do you weigh? What do you bench?" And that was day one, but it turned into a friendship, for sure. So we were both into, body guys and guys with physiques, because he came from a bodybuilding background. I came from a powerlifting background. So me and Solution got along real well, and I think we feuded for 3 matches, and he beat me, and then we ended up tagging for a minute. Right. And tagging with him was really cool. It was like the Steiner brothers. Mm-hmm. That's what, yeah.
Yeah. And then you guys were a good tag team together until Navy put his boot in the man's eye socket into his career. And so explain to me and the people how important, because you're a big guy, man. You're you got good physique on you. You post a lot of pictures of your hard work that you do in the gym.
Oh yeah.
Tell the young guys in the wrestling business how important it is to work out in the gym.
Man, I can't stress it enough, especially this day and age. Like, nobody really spends time in the gym. A lot of these guys, if they were on TV standards, wouldn't pass. It's a visual. Like, yeah, it's not always fair, but it's the way it is. Like, we're people on TV, we're playing a character, so we need to look a certain way. And looking a certain way makes stuff more believable. And physically being able to do certain moves really makes everything safer. Like, if everybody's in the gym training their ass off and they know they're confident and they can do every single move to their opponent, It just makes everything safer. So, I mean, there's no negative to being in the gym.
Right.
At all, ever. It's
Yeah.
always a positive. So.
And I know when you came, you and Solution, when y'all showed up, okay, you guys brung something to the WWE 4, and a lot of other guys wanted. They wanted to look like you guys. So I know, because I used to see you guys talking to these younger guys. They come to you guys about getting nutrition information on how can they get bigger, how can they get stronger. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, yeah, me and Solution were really the most jacked dudes at A4 at the time. So a lot of people, would come to us and ask for advice. And, Rob, the Solution, coming from a bodybuilding background, really knew a lot about nutrition and training as far as building a better physique. And that's what he really taught me at A4, was building that physique and getting, the proper nutrition to build that physique. Because before, when I was powerlifting, it was basically lift as much weight as you can and eat as much as you can. And it didn't matter what you looked like. But coming to wrestling, it matters a lot what you look like. And I mean, take it however you want to. It's a fact. It matters, especially on television. So working out is a very, very important thing. I mean, just for safety reasons alone. Like, just being able to know that you can handle your opponent the way that you need to. Like, I see a lot of people calling moves and everything. It's just like, you're not strong enough to do that. Like, don't even attempt it.
Right.
And I mean, that's something I never do. If I know a dude's way bigger than what I'm capable of, I won't do a certain move to him.
Right.
Like, you never want to put yourself in a position to, one, look weak, and two, put your opponent in danger.
Right.
So, weightlifting and going to the gym is very important, and I think it's neglected nowadays by a lot of dudes.
Right. So the nutrition thing is very important, young people. So don't think, you got to go, because I see a lot of guys, man, they're not professional at this wrestling game. Guys go to shows drinking alcohol, okay? Guys go to shows drunk, okay? That is not what this game is about, people. If you want to last in professional wrestling, you cannot go to work drunk. If you're going to a regular job intoxicated, they'll fire you. And you'll be blackballed and you can't go to work to another company. So, with that said, folks, Odinson's trying to explain to you guys as a young wrestler, work out. Be serious. I mean, Jonathan Gresham, he eats right, he works out. If you see him now compared to when he first started, he's totally looks like a professional right now. And he posts his, how he eats and everything is all healthy, but he works out on top of that. So to be sustainable in professional wrestling, you cannot drink alcohol before you go to work. All you're going to do is just tear your body down, and you're going to be out the game before you even get started. So with that, AT, tell us how you feel about that. Have you ever been to a freaking show? You better not have, as long as if you're sitting right here, because I hit you with this baseball bat I got over in the corner like Sanford Son used to have in his house. I'd hit you right upside your noggin. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Hughes. No, I've never seen anybody come to a show drunk that I know of. I mean, I've seen it happen on live TV on TNA one time. Jeff Hardy. It was an incident. He healed himself, though. But, yeah, I used to work out with Odinson at the WWE 4. He helped me out. He gave me some tips, that I still use to today, even when I go into the gym. And I appreciate it for him. And if I need, like, some help, like building a certain muscle or something, I hit him up and I message him. And he tells you, all you got to do is ask.
That's right. So it's real important, guys, to work out. Be serious. If you're getting in this wrestling profession, you need to get serious. Work out, okay? Because if you don't work out, your body is not going to last. It's not going to last at all. Now, with that said, Odinson, you and I, once you, start doing shows at the school, finally you graduated to doing shows outside the school. And like I said, I always want to wrestle my guys. And when you came in, I was like, once I train this guy, I want to have a match with him, just like I did with Nation, AR Fox, Moose. I can go on and on and on with all the talented guys I trained because I wanted to really test you and see if you were ready for the next level. And so I get all my students bookings on shows with me, and I got you a booking with me down at Global Championship Wrestling down there with Mad Dog and in Pell City, and we had a match down there at the Civic Center. When you knew that you were going to wrestle Total Protection Mr. Hughes, what was going on through your mind, man?
Man, like, one, I had confidence that you knew what you were doing. And I remember you didn't want to call the match until real close to the show. So at the time, I was like, okay, what's going on here? Like, let's call something. And then once it happened, it was like, oh, okay, this is exactly Uha's match that I just watched with Mr. Hughes. Like, okay, this is like almost move for move, exactly
same match,
the same thing. And I remember going out there like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna work, but we went out there and we had that same match in front of a different crowd.
Exactly.
And it got so over. And I remember I did maybe just a clothesline. I think that's the only bump I gave you was a clothesline. And maybe a clothesline over the rope.
Right.
And that was it.
Right.
And I remember thinking, like, this isn't going to work. I'm not doing anything. Like,
right, exactly.
How am I going to get over? But then it happened, and then we did nothing, and we worked the crowd, and it got over. And I remember thinking, like, okay, this is how you stay in the business for 40 years.
Thank you.
This is how you do it. Like, legit, like, it was an eye-opener that night. Like, you don't have to do, like, just work the crowd. That was all you have to do.
And that's the key, folks. You heard it from the horse's mouth. He had opportunity to wrestle Total Protection Mr. Hughes. He told you he didn't do much, but the crowd was going crazy. He was the babyface. I was the heel. I got him over first, see? I didn't just go in there and beat the hell out of him. I got him over first to establish he's the babyface. I'm the chicken. I had to cheat. I had to start cheating to get the people to start saying something. And so I wanted him to learn that part, because once you learn the psychology, that's what I was teaching him, psychology, people. And without the psychology, you can't be a professional wrestler. That means you're going to get in there and take all kinds of unnecessary bumps and get hurt. Now, Odinson, have you got hurt thus far in the business? Like when you got started in WWA4 and you started doing shows, did you get hurt? Did you work with anybody that you thought that wasn't good, and that, you know, if you would have did something like they wanted, you would have got busted up?
I mean, I've worked with a lot of greed people. A lot of people don't know exactly how this works and what they're doing. So, I mean, really, it was A4 that taught me when I was the champion there for so long. I worked everybody. Yeah. So I would work 3 matches with basically the whole roster. So I worked with the best people and then with the greenest people. Yeah. And I had to learn how to get them over. So that's how it's been. So I mean, I don't let people take liberties that I'm not comfortable with. Right. So I don't let stuff get out of hand. So it's never, you know, a concern. So like I haven't been injured too bad in the ring at all.
Good. That's great, because you must be doing something right. And so wrestling smaller guys compared to bigger guys, how you feel about that?
I think it's great. I think if a bigger guy can wrestle heavyweight psychology against a smaller dude, I think that's a great match that nobody sees anymore, because especially on the independent scene right now, everybody kind of wrestles the same style. Nobody has any weight classes. People no-sell things for no reason, no matter their size. So I think a true heavyweight that wrestles like a heavyweight versus a cruiserweight who wrestles like a cruiserweight is always going to be a great match, because nobody sees it anymore.
Okay, so tell us how you come up with that gimmick, Odinson. That's real important here. we at the point now where we're starting to how you came up with the gimmick, Odinson. Where'd you get that from? Great gimmick. Tell us about it.
Well, basically, I came up with the gimmick. Growing up, my mom always told me, like, oh, you're Norwegian, you're a Viking, so you should, I don't know, weird things, like not be cold or, like, you know, like you're a Viking. And then on my dad's side of the family, they're also from Norway. So both sides of my family have family from Norway. So Norwegian kind of culture was always kind of just like pushed in my face, like, oh, you're Norwegian. I'm like, oh, okay. And then growing up, I really got into obviously lifting weights and strongman and powerlifting, and the best strongmen in the world were always Scandinavian, like from Iceland or Norway, or so I really connected with that because I was powerlifting at the same time. So I associated myself with you know, people from Iceland and Norway and Scandinavians, and I got Thor's hammer tattooed on my chest when I was 19 years old, and it says Viking Power on the hammer, and that's the saying. One of the strongmen from Norway, Sven Karlsson, he would always scream, Viking Power. I think he's a 3-time world's strongest man. So I was really into strongman, and that's where the kind of Norse heritage came from, and that's where the tattoo came from. And then when I moved down to Atlanta for wrestling, it's like I have this big Thor hammer tattoo on my chest. I can't really ignore that with my gimmick. So the name Odinson is like Thor Odinson, like son of Thor. And really at the time I was trying to come up with like a first name and everything, but by the time I debuted, I couldn't come up with a first name, so I was just like, oh, well, I'm just Odinson. And it was right before like Cesaro became just Cesaro and Rusev became just Rusev. So I was like, oh, that worked out good.
I mean, it's a great story, no doubt about it. So you came up with the gimmick, man. Now you're on the road, traveling all over the country. Tell us, what you been doing since you know you left the school and you've been on the road? Have you have any big companies, big shows you've been on? Tell us about what you're doing now, man.
Since A4, I mean, really, what really shot it off was me, Black Baron, and Stitch doing the Full Impact Pro 6-man tag team tournament down in Florida. And that's what really got me noticed, was because at A4 we do crazy shit all the time. So like in these matches at FIP, like I was popping Stitch up onto my shoulders and he was moonsaulting off of my shoulders and everything. So like we were just popping everybody and everybody's going crazy.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so all three of us worked at FIP for a while, and then eventually Stitch kind of fell out, and then Baron kind of fell out, and then I was kind of like the only guy still at FIP from A4, and I was doing like this heavyweight division thing. And then Gabe Sapolsky took over FIP and kind of did his own thing, and I didn't work there for like 6 months. And then when I came back, we came back into FIP, but I came back with a tag team, really a faction. It was me, Mike Perro, and Dan Drennan, and they made us a faction on FIP. And it was just some random thing that wasn't supposed to be anything. It was just like, oh, tag with them tonight. And then we faced these dudes, and just the way we interacted with each other and the moves we did, like the tag moves we did and everything, like the management and everything just was like, whoa, like you guys need to be together all the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so have you been overseas, any out of the country gigs?
Yeah, so from that faction, me and my tag team partner, Mike Perro, we ran there with the FIP tag belts for like 6 months, you know, going through Evolve, working those shows as well. And Japan was always something I wanted to do in my career. Like, that was the main thing. Like, if I could just do one thing, it would be go and work in Japan and have some real matches at a real federation over there. And lucky that happened with my tag team. The End, we got booked for the All Japan. What was it? All Japan Strongest Tag League Tournament in 2018. And it was a 5-week tournament, and we wrestled 19 matches. And we came out with 10 points, which we almost could have won the whole tournament that night. So, yeah. And then 6 weeks ago, we got back from our second tour. So, yeah, we're touring All Japan regular right now, and we're planning to go back in November for our second tag league tournament.
Otis, could you explain like the name, like the End? Why? Like, how'd you guys get that name? How'd you come up with it?
The End, really, that was, we were at Evolve, and then we had been put together as a tag team. We had no name, and then we were brought up to Evolve, and we got there the day of, no sleep, going straight to the venue from a, 21-hour drive. Went straight to the venue, and then we were brought straight to the back room, and Gabe just started going over like, all right, this is what's happening. You guys are coming out. First match. What are you doing to him? All right, you're smashing him. And then it was just basically the first 4 matches of the night. The End just came out and murdered everybody in the match and just destroyed everybody. But the way they built it up was they acted like it was the end of the company, Evolve. So it was built up as the company was going to end, but really it was our debut.
So how fun was it being overseas? I know when I went over, I had a ball over in Japan.
Oh,
everywhere I went, I had a ball.
Yeah. Japan is my home. Like, really, I consider Japan my home. Like, it's great.
Everybody likes it.
Yeah. Like, just the one story you told me earlier, I was like, oh, I bet. Like, it's so great. Like, wrestling is treated completely different in Japan than it is here.
No doubt.
Like, independent wrestling here would not get over in Japan.
No, it won't.
At all. Japan respects athletes. They respect size. They respect showmanship. It's completely different. Like, the respect we get over there is night and day from the respect we get here.
No doubt about it.
Like, I would wrestle there 100% of the time if I could.
So with that said, any upcoming shows that you want to let folks know about, where you're going to be, so they can come check Odinson out?
Yeah, 3 weeks from now, we got a Full Impact Pro down in Tampa, Florida. And really, we got some big things in the works that I can't really talk about. But the thing that's for sure is we are going back to Japan mid-November for their tag team tournament again. And this time, the End will come out victorious.
Sounds great. So with that said, we're starting to wind this thing down. So how can the folks find you on social media? Tell the folks about how they can reach Odinson out there in the internet world.
On Twitter and Instagram, I believe it's Odinson of Asgard at each. So, yeah, Odinson of Asgard on Twitter and Instagram. Follow me on there. And keep up with everything.
What about Facebook? You on there?
Facebook, yep. Reginald Odinson Gibbs. Fan page Odinson. Just look it up. You'll find it.
All right. So with that said, folks, what a great Total Protection Mr. Hughes 4th edition podcast. Had my guest Odinson. Odinson, I hope you had a great time. Thank you for coming and joining Total Protection Mr. Hughes.
Thanks for having me.
And the ATLien on the Total Protection Mr. Hughes podcast. AT, is there anything you like to add before we close this thing out?
Yeah, Odinson, do you have T-shirts and stuff? Is there a way that people can buy those?
Yeah, actually, last time we were in Japan, we totally sold out. And we have not re-upped yet. But That will be on the Odinson of Asgard .eci. What is it? ECI. Jeez, ECWID.com. I think.
Well, we'll
Just go to Odinson of Asgard. You'll find it.
We'll put it in the description.
No doubt about it. AT?
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. If you were looking for me, I am DATLien, ATLien on all social media platforms.
And I'm Total Protection Mr. Hughes. You can find me on Facebook at Mr. Curtis Hughes on Facebook and Total Protection Mr. Hughes on Facebook and Bodyguard Hughes on Instagram. Folks, what a great night. Thank you, Odinson, for joining us for the ATLien and Big Odinson. I'm Total Protection Mr. Hughes. Thank you for listening. Support the Total Protection Podcast, folks. We'll see you next time here live from Total Protection Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.